So we're back on the grind again. Perspective is the next video, and it is without a doubt one of my most favorite subjects when it comes to change. And perspective is not part of perspective is how you see the world, but that's not all that perspective is. Perspective is really being able to objectively look at the world, situations, you, most importantly you. Without perspective, you're not going to go anywhere. You are not going to be able to build anything. You're not going to be able to change anything. You're not going to be able to grow. Perspective really is the ability to look where you are at, where you were at in the past, where you're at now, where you want to be, and to not get down on yourself because of where you're at now is not where you eventually want to end up at. And that is one of the things I've really struggled with is, and really not only myself, but those who I care the most about. I've made a lot of change in the last 4 years. I've grown tremendously, but I'm still not where I want to be at, and I probably never will, because I plan on always changing, always growing, always rewriting my philosophy, mindset, attitude, and perspective, always looking to grow those, always looking to get those to a higher level. And people who are closest to me and myself, sometimes I go, I'm not where I want to be at yet. But compared to where I used to be, I am light years ahead of who I used to be, in all aspects of my life, except probably professionally. I've always done relatively well professionally. I'm not super rich. I'm not rich at all. I mean, I'm not hurting per se, but I'm not making six figures a year. I'm not making $1 million a year. But to keep perspective, and you cannot in this journey, you absolutely cannot forget where you came from. A lot of people, they want to forget the past, or you got to put the past behind you, because you'll never move forward if you're stuck in the past. You'll never go anywhere if you're focused on what is behind you. That literally is the only thing in life that you have no control over. You can't change it. You can't do anything about who you used to be, the decisions you made, who they affected, the problems they caused. All you can really do is just, but you have to remember who you used to be, because you can't judge how far you've come if you've forgotten where you started. You can't know when you've reached a landmark if you don't know where you started or the spots along the way. So that's kind of perspective as far as yourself is concerned. And I like to use the analogy, I used to, I don't know, you might see somebody, maybe a single mom or a single dad, or maybe even a couple with a couple of kids, and maybe they're driving a crappy beat up car, and you think, God, I would never put my kids in nothing like that, or I would never drive. But you don't know where they came from. You don't know the struggles that they've dealt with or lived through. And when I look at things, that crappy whatever car it is, it's probably better than walking in the rain, or it's probably better than taking the bus. And there's nothing wrong with public transportation. I'm just saying that you can't judge somebody or yourself on where you think they should be or where you think you should be. You have to really understand people's situations. You have to understand your own situation and understand where you came from, how far you've come. But at the same time, keeping that vision on the future, keeping that vision front and center, always reaching, always constantly one foot in front of the other towards whatever vision you have for the future. And the second you stop to have a look behind you to see where you used to be at, that's where you stumble off the path. That's where you start the depression and you start the backsliding, and you lose focus on excuse me, you lose focus on where you want to go because of where you were. And looking at things objectionably, looking at situations for exactly what they are, not what you think they are, or not what somebody told you they were, but for exactly what they are, and really taking the time to understand a situation. And perspective is deep. There's a lot about perspective, understanding guilt and placing blame and accepting blame and responsibility and accountability, and understanding that situations you were in the past, it's not all your fault. And this is the really tough part about change, is really understanding who's at blame, who's at fault for different parts of your past and your decisions, because there are things that you're going to have to forgive yourself for. There are things you're going to have to forgive others for. There are things that you're going to have to go to the people you hurt and say, hey, I did this to you and I'm sorry. And these are all videos that I'm going to get to eventually, but the foundation for change starts with the 4 keys. And I'm kind of maybe thinking about adding a 5th, because I've been thinking a lot about communication. But communication with others is kind of a small stepping stone in the journey of change. But communication with yourself is important, to sit down with yourself and have talks, break the day down, give your mind a chance to process. At first, your mind will have a lot to process. My mind is constantly processing the past, to try to understand things like where I went wrong, what did I do right, who hurt me, who did I hurt. Doesn't mean I'm focused on the past. I'm focused 90% of the time on my vision of where I want to get to in the future. But perspective, when it comes to your roadmap, to the roadmap at first looks like just a squiggly mess of lines that intersect and go 1,000 different directions. And sorry, something's bothering me tonight. But as perspective takes away some of those paths, it straightens some of the roads. Some of the roads will disappear because those aren't places that you thought at one time you may want to go down, you may want to start in this direction. But as the fog lifts and as things start to clear up, and as your mind really starts to process information, you will start to eliminate roads from your map, because they may be in a more positive direction, but they're not in the most positive direction. They can't do the most good for you and those that are closest to you, because there will come a time in change where you have to pick and choose who are important to you. You cannot please everybody. There are going to be lots of people that want you to change, but they're for selfish reasons, to use you for whatever skill you may possess. And when you start trying to change for too many people, your life becomes so much more complicated than what it used to be. And a lot of times we find ourselves in messes because the needs of other people conflict with each other. So the person over there may need you for this or this, and the person over there may need you for this and this, but those two needs, they conflict with each other, and they probably conflict with your needs and your loved one's needs, and those people that you are changing for, that's kind of an odd statement, because really, if you are trying to change for someone, you will find out that the most people in your life will eventually be gone, and you will be disappointed and you will be hurt, because all that work you did for somebody else who's no longer in your life, it will feel like a waste. And I've been there. I have tried to change. I tried to base my change for one person or one group of people, and they eventually left my life, and it left me devastated because I felt like it was a huge waste of time. But now I understand that the change is not for anybody but me. It's for the world. It's for to help people. I've learned so much over the last 4 years, and that's a lot of the purpose for this video. That's my perspective. Is this change was not for anybody in particular. Now, if I change for people and they stay in my life, that's just a bonus. That's just an extra. That's just an incentive. But when you really change for yourself and you really see smiles on people's faces because they appreciate your advice, they appreciate your word, they appreciate your help. Because I don't help with expectation. I don't help or give people advice with any expectation of getting anything back. You will be let down every time. I help just because I want to see people do better than I did, to not have to lose and be devastated and have tragedies in their life. I don't want to see that for anybody else because it is extremely painful and hurtful and just devastating. It is just devastating. So now that perspective is over, I'm going to do a video over a general overview of the 4 keys to change, and then we're going to hop into some philosophy. We're going to hop into what change looks like, what happens, some things to look out for. It's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of videos dropped because change is messy. Change is hard. There's a lot that people don't understand about change. There's a lot that people, they just don't get. They don't understand it. It's very difficult. So change is complicated. Change challenges everything about us as humans that we don't want to face, that we don't like about ourselves. Change goes against our very nature. Humans are like electricity or water. We want to follow the path of least resistance, and change is not a path of least resistance. Change is confrontational and aggressive and angry, but once it starts, it is as beautiful as a newborn child. So I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. You guys have a great day, and I look forward to sharing a lot more with you.